Catus Maximus here. Just decided to make a video since I did have all Harbor Freight's trim and molding tools. Almost all of them. They do have a metal, this metal set is a 4-piece set. And there's like a black trim tool, which I ended up loaning out and never got back. And these are their fiberglass nylon scrapers, but they're also great for molding, trimming, automotive molding, trim, and panels. As well as other uses. These are particularly good for separating plastic halves, but these things are just, these scrapers are really pretty nice just for getting into real tight spaces, and the fact that they have pretty sharp edges, you can get them in and then move them from one side to the other. Definitely pretty handy. So anyway, this is just a video so people can see basically what you can get for around, I think it's like around 60 bucks, you know, with coupons you can get all this stuff. But as I was organizing these, I was looking at the website and realized I think I had all the sets, so why not make a video, an all-inclusive video. So these are advertised as, these metal ones are advertised as GM tools, and so these are primarily used for exterior trim, the metal trim around windows, around the edges of the doors. They usually use specialized metal clips, and you have to hook into them in very unique ways, and so that's really what these tools are for. And they did have another black tool, which isn't as critical as some of these more specialized ones, but it is part of the set, so I did want to mention that. But these types of clips and these types of tools can be absolutely invaluable, and these things are, particularly this arrow one, is pretty handy because you can get it in there and actually be able to manipulate or push a little hook back to be able to get that trim up. Really, it just requires, if you haven't done it on that particular vehicle, just doing a little bit of homework to find out exactly what style of clips are holding on that metal trim to be able to know what tool that you can use. Once again, there is this nylon set, which is a 4-piece set, pretty good. What is also handy is if you have a real tight panel, you can hit this with a hammer, not super hard, it's plastic, but still fiberglass reinforced nylon, and it does have a handle, so you can hit it and be able to get it into some of those tight spaces. We do have their yellow 4-piece set, which is pretty interesting. I did realize why this set has 3 of these spoons. The idea is it can get behind a panel and pop it up, and maybe it flexes too much where you can't just pop up a corner and then peel it back, where you can put in one spoon, put in a third one, or a second one, and then even a third one to get more even pressure to get it all popped up. You'd leave one in there just to prevent it from snapping back into place, kind of like bicycle tire levers. Then they give you a couple different forks, one's straight, one's at about 45 degrees. They give you this wide wedge, so if once you get something started, it gets very wide very quickly, so you can push it in and be able to get the panels to separate apart. And then this is just a right angle hook, so you can get in behind something, as well as just a really narrow, actually concave kind of poking tool. I don't know what else to really call it. Here's their blue set, which is contains, I guess, the other style tools. They have another hook tool, but this one is really sharp. It's like 120 degrees or something like that. Could be, and it is handy in certain situations where you just can't get an angle with a longer tool, and that's kind of the idea with this too, is you can get it under there, and then this actually has a loop where you can hook and actually pull with it. And these plastic tools are reasonably rigid. They're really cheap, you know, 5 or 10 bucks for the set. Once again, there's this tool with a really steep bend, and then it just has a really wide spatula, which is nice. And just more kind of similar to the yellow tools. It's a narrow wedge with a 45 degree. These are also more designed for the plastic clips, just because they have more of a narrow fork and a little slot in there. Same with that one. This is essentially a plastic crowbar here. It's made just a bit thicker and just for additional prying force. Not really a lot else to say. They have this offset so you can get in, maybe you're against the surface, so you still have space for your hand to work. And then essentially a hooked kind of pulling tool. This isn't particularly strong on that side, but this tongue right here on this side is actually very thin, so it can really get into some pretty tight spaces. But that's where these red ones come in, is if you have a situation where you need something thin, this isn't going to be particularly strong, even compared to maybe one of these smaller fiberglass nylon ones, will really allow you to get some separation. Mention those. These are their nicer handled. Wow, that's all caught up. This one's a real reach around tool to get all the way around a bend, or maybe it's a door panel, so you can get into the backside, reach around the door panel, and actually then pry up the rivet. So this thing actually I've used a couple of times. Then you have some more just standard pry bar tools. These are just metal, so they offer a lot more strength and a more ergonomic grip for popping more stubborn, say, inside wheel wells, engine undercovers, more exterior plastic rivets. And then, of course, they have a really narrow one and then a kind of a medium fork style one. Those are a more recommended set. Really, these metal sets right here would probably be the first set that I would pick up, besides maybe the plastic sets. The last set is also probably the more expensive one, because I think it's like 20 or 25 bucks with the cube one. Maybe it's not that much, I always forget. Is these rivet popping pry bars, and they come in a 6-piece set of both long and short. The short ones are more than rigid enough. These you can get in and just basically get behind any plastic rivet. These would be more designed for interior panels, such as door panels and all the plastic panels around the back end of a car. The only real criticism about these is the fact that you have a small, a medium, and a large. And the medium and the large are almost the same size, and the small super tiny. So they could have made the medium more in the middle. And then, of course, then they have these, whatever, the 18 or 24-inch long ones. They're a bit more flexy because of how long they are, but they'll still be certainly strong enough for any kind of plastic rivets. So, not a whole lot to this video. And although it's easy enough, it would have been nice if they would have included holes in some of these plastic ones, because all these handled ones all have holes in the handles, so they're easy to hang. Even these two metal ones do, but this one oddly doesn't, but you could drill a hole in that too. Then, of course, these scraper tools don't have any hanging holes, although it would be handy even in these. Other than that, when it really comes to automotive trim stuff, it just kind of depends on the vehicle and the particular rivet and whether they're real prone to breaking, etc., etc., whether the panel that you're trying to remove is flexing a bunch or won't take flex, where you have to use multiple tools to kind of work your way around, leaving some under the panel to prevent it from, snapping back, or to provide some tension, is where you would want to have multiple tools. And this is probably one of the better, the more in Harbor Freight's wheelhouse is these types of tools, because once again, you can pick up this whole pile for like 50 or 60 bucks. Even though it does seem a little bit excessive, what ends up happening is you end up actually having just the right tools, so that the job goes a heck of a lot easier. Or when you need to use multiple tools for the same operation, you have them available. You're not trying to, say, use this tool and realize that you really need two of them to try to get at it, where you could use this tool and maybe this tool would also provide the backup or something like that. Anyway, I really appreciate everybody who's been watching and subscribing. And if you haven't subscribed, please do. Until next time, Catus Maximus out.